How is Japan destroying its own economy? This is something that I've really been thinking about a lot in the last couple of days. A couple days ago in class, for a listening exercise, we listened to about a 45-second clip from Japanese news talking about the increasing prices of onigiri and other konbini products.
手巻きおにぎり北海道産昆布は138円から24円引き上げ162円に116円から138円になります。若鶏のジューシー唐揚げ弁当は572円から54円引き上げ626円になります。
Now this really piqued my interest because I hadn't really heard about this. I knew prices were going up because there's been some pretty crazy inflation in Japan since COVID and all that stuff, but I didn't exactly know like what is the exact cause of this inflation. And after I did a little bit of digging, I think I found the cause. So I got this article to show you guys. Japan rice prices jump to record for fourth month. That's a 68% increase. If there's a 60% jump in any price, that is a problem. And here's another graph for reference from earlier in the year. This is already a pretty inflated price. In 2023, there was a really tough summer, so like the yield wasn't very good for rice. And so you can see this price is going up, but this graph only goes to June 2024, and it's not even at 1,600 yen yet. And then we come back here and it's 2,500 per 60 kilograms average. That's insane. What's going on here? So looking into it a little bit more, I came across this article from the Mainichi. This is 2024's new rice has finally hit the Japan market. So why are prices still high? Again, this is back in September. This newest article, this is January 20th. This is literally a couple days ago. So around 4 months ago, they were saying both yield and quality appear to be improving compared to 2023, whose distribution volume declined due to extremely hot summer. Nevertheless, the price of new rice has been rising because of increasing production costs, such as fertilizer and labor expenses. Some of you may know, but not all of you know, I'm actually from Iowa in America. It's like the middle of America. Most people don't know much about Iowa, but if you know anything about Iowa, you know that its main exports are corn and soybeans, some other products, and like, you know, pork and cat, like very agricultural state. Through growing up in Iowa, I have kind of by osmosis learned a little bit about what goes into production. When the government messes with production, and on top of that, when prices of energy go up, that really will jack up all of your prices across the board for anything in a farm. This piece is from Reddit, so I guess, you know, take everything from Reddit with a grain of salt. Here it says, rice prices remain high amid scramble for supplies. Rising production costs also a factor. This is again in September's 4 months ago. The top response, what? It's all government control. Research the Japanese rice acreage reduction policy. It's absolutely bananas. The government spends over 300 billion yen in subsidies annually to decrease the amount of rice produced, thus going out of its way to reduce the price and increasing the burden on consumers. Here's a quick Google search on this one. Japan's acreage reduction policy was a program that limited the amount of land used to grow rice and keep prices high. So imagine you have all of this land that you can use to produce rice, and that if you really wanted to, if you made excess, you can export that to other countries and make some extra money. But the government, in order to control prices, to try and probably support farmers, creates these price controls, and what ends up happening is that what happens if it's a bad year? Well, suddenly you've limited the amount of rice you can produce, and now everyone's losing money, right? Because basically the price will go up, then everyone has to pay that extra price. This is an editorial from the Mainichi again. However, unlike the 1993 rice crisis, when a cold summer led to poor harvests and forced Japan to import the grain, this year's crop conditions were about average. The increase in consumption by inbound travelers is estimated to account for only about 4.4% of overall demand. The panic buying was also a temporary phenomena. For those of you that don't know, there was a little bit of an earthquake scare. Everyone thought a bigger one was coming, so a lot of people bought rice, anticipating a potential earthquake. And then this guy also talks about the rice quota system, saying, yet agricultural policies that prioritize maintaining rice prices have contributed to a decline in supply capacity. Even after the abolition of production quota system, policies to suppress table rice production by providing subsidies for feed rice and other alternatives continue. Farmland dedicated to rice has decreased by nearly 20% over the last decade. Obviously, this is a huge factor playing into why the prices are going up, not to mention that rice is a staple of pretty much everything in Japanese cuisine. While the government controls are one factor, I think there is also another really large factor at play, and that is Japan's awful energy policy. Now you may be wondering, why do I think this policy is so bad? And the main reason is because on the face this looks decent, but it's actually like a really bad policy. The best part about this is the fact that they are planning to increase their nuclear from around 3% to 20 to 22%. Now basically all they're doing is they're reactivating old nuclear power plants that they shut down following the Fukushima disaster. Now, while I do think that renewable energy sources are a good thing to pursue overall, I don't think it should be done at the sacrifice of cheap energy prices, because when energy prices go up, the price of literally everything in the economy goes up. By removing subsidies for natural gas, like petroleum, you make all of those more expensive, which makes all of production in every sector, especially agriculture, way more expensive. This is directly affecting the farmers, the rice farmers. Nuclear, in my opinion, is the most renewable, the most efficient, the best energy source you can possibly do. And so while it's a good thing that they're making it 20 to 22%, it's could be way better, and they should invest way more money into new nuclear plants, in my opinion. Now, of course, the 2011 Fukushima disaster at the nuclear plant was a complete disaster, but the responsible parties have been held accountable, mainly the government and TEPCO, for failing to bring the facilities up to proper safety standards. On top of that, there was some negligence during the disaster, human error, etc., etc. Right now, Japan has a deep-seated fear of nuclear power, and obviously rightfully so because of the Fukushima disaster, but I personally think that a lot of that fear with modern technology and modern safety procedures is not entirely justified. Not to mention that the carbon footprint of nuclear energy power plants is significantly lower than even solar and wind. So if your true goal, in my opinion, is to have fully renewable energy by some certain date, then the first thing you should do is invest in a lot of power plants. And I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. China approves 11 new nuclear reactors, including fourth generation design. Now, the Fukushima disaster was a second generation design, which was made in the 1960s. So not only was the accident preventable by the government and the company that made it, but the facility itself was really old when the disaster happened. And sorry to pick on you, Germany, but Germany very recently decommissioned all of their nuclear power plants. And how's that working out for you guys? The prices? Like standard of living? You guys have to pay Russia for oil while also funding a war against Russia? That doesn't sound very intelligent, making yourself have to rely on countries outside of yourself. Like your goal as a country, in my opinion, any country should be to be as independent from outside sources as you possibly can be within reason. So Japan has had a carbon tax in place since about 2012. And since 2020, they started pursuing this renewable energy agenda. After COVID and inflation starts to kick in, prices start to increase, and that while they are also starting to remove subsidies for gas to make gas cheaper for everyone. And who gets slapped with that cost in the end? The consumer. High gas prices significantly impact farmers by increasing the cost of operating their farm machinery, transporting crops to market, and purchasing essential supplies like fertilizers, which are often derived from fossil fuels, ultimately leading to higher food prices for consumers due to increased production costs for farmers. We've already established that Japan had these weird price controls in place for a very long time. They're gone now as of 2018, but a lot of the effects still remain, and a lot of those practices and some subsidies for other types of rice still remain as well, on top of the reduced potential for output. So then you start removing subsidies for gas and making the cost of energy go up on top of that. Whose idea was this? This 私にとってこれは自殺的な政策です。自殺的な、マジで。And here's the thing too. The people who get hurt the most by energy prices being more expensive, it's not rich people. At the end of the day, it's people who are just scraping by. If your rice prices increase by 60% within a very short time frame, poor people do not always have the ability or the means to pay for this. And so basically through terrible energy policy and terrible management of farming, which happens all the time in governments from throughout history. This is how in America the Great Depression started, like literally. Basically, you either ignore or try to control the farmers too much, and this shit happens. Now, living in Iowa, I learned a thing or two about this. My dad is heavily involved in the agriculture industry as well, so I've asked him about it, and I asked, well, when you're breaking down like production costs for farming, what's like the base, like how does energy play into it? And he said, like literally that's the baseline for everything. Like if the energy costs are low, all the costs are low. If energy costs are up, all costs are up. This article was made about a week ago. Agricultural, forestry, and fishery goods prices climbed 9.7%, mainly due to price hikes, while prices of food and beverages logged a 2.6% rise amid higher material costs. To anyone in the comments, I really want to encourage discussion around this. If there's anything I'm missing, like any information you think that I need to know, or that either supports what I'm claiming or disproves what I'm claiming, please leave it down below and just try to keep it civil. あなたは日本人なら、僕はいつも強い意見があるので、でも日本は素晴らしい国だと思う。このような政策は日本人でも説明があればコメントを書いてください。書いたら嬉しいですよ。よろしくお願いします。But anyways, again, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. If you have anything else to add, please leave a comment down below. And that is how Japan is nosediving their economy. I really want Japan to be a great country, just like any country in the world. I want everyone to be in a great country. And in my opinion, the best way to pursue that is to get energy prices as low as possible, and then pursue things like nuclear energy or other renewable energy sources without undercutting and making other energy sources more expensive. Because if you lift people out of poverty, that's when they can really start to consider these policies and really start to see the renewable energy is important. But anyway, that's just my opinion. This is a completely different video than what I normally make. I just kind of got a little bit obsessed with this the last 2 days, and I was like, you know what, I have to talk about this. I've been wanting to make videos like this about things going on in Japan for a while now, so this is my first attempt. Let me know what you guys think. If you want to see more, like, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, become a member today. You can get some really cool emotes and some member exclusive content on top of that, and I will see you guys in the next video. So thanks for watching. Peace.